at some point the math is the math.
I think we can do a better job using that information.
It reinforces my belief that I have the best constituents.
Hello, District 6. Hello, Austin. We are back, episode 15 of the Clawback Live. Did y'all go out and play in the snow this week? Did you even know there was snow this week? I didn't know till I got up that morning and I saw the light dusting in my front yard, but of course by the time I got to City Hall it was all gone. But I hope y'all had a good time in our little brief wintry mix. The stuff I want to talk about today, we had a council meeting this week, although really the council meeting was pretty quick. We finished early, we were able to get through a number of items. We talked a little bit more about the Land Development Code. I'll do that at the end of the show. I want to bring up, I always get nervous when I bring up the titles. Here they come. So the three topics that I want to talk about, stuff that was in the council meeting this week, the council approved a contract with a new consultant to help us work on homelessness. And I voted no. I voted no on this contract, in part because I continue to be concerned about how we as a city and a region are managing this challenge. When I've talked to experts in the field, what they tell me is that the best way to address this is with a consolidated effort through an external organization that is designated by the federal government. And in Austin, that group is called ECHO. And they have a special designation with the feds. That means they can access funds in a different way. They can do matching funds with city dollars or external private dollars. They coordinate with many of the service providers. And that really is the most efficient way to leverage the resources that we are putting to this problem. So I remain concerned about this contract, but I think it's going to work out. It's not a permanent hire. I think this guy may be able to come in and actually get that done. The thing that I said about not having the city go out and do a bunch of independent contracts when we really should be running this problem through our continuum of care provider. But it did pass. I was the only dissenting vote on it, so I will keep my eyes open on how this contract moves forward. There were a couple items on the agenda this week related to public safety that probably didn't hit anybody's radar in District 6. There was an interlocal agreement with the Department of Public Safety that will improve our radio communications. So when state troopers or sheriffs or city police officers are responding to calls, all the radios will work together. You all may remember this was one of the challenges back in 9/11 about the radios not really talking to each other. So I'm excited to see this work continuing, and that it also includes agencies in Williamson County and Hays County. Of course, District 6, half of District 6 is in Williamson County. I live in Williamson County myself, so it's always a big topic of conversation for me. Glad to see that happen. We approved the new contract for body cameras, so we'll be continuing our work placing body cameras on our APD officers. It's been, I think, a really good program so far. Although there are some policy questions to answer about how those videos are released to the public. That work continues with the Office of Police Oversight. We should hopefully see those policies come back to us in the next couple of months. But regardless, it is better to have these body cameras even while we work through some of these policy concerns. And so I'm glad that we saw that contract move forward. And a resolution by my colleague Paige Ellis from District 8 related to safe firearm storage, some public education. We've been talking with APD about theft of firearms. It's kind of an epidemic, and it's happening in District 6. But the thing that's happening in District 6, more so than any other part of town, are firearms being stolen from vehicles. If you are watching this video and you keep a firearm in your vehicle, please check out resources from APD about how you can secure that, or maybe not leave a firearm in your vehicle. That's also an option. But apparently that is what thieves are targeting all across the city, but especially in Northwest Austin. So I was glad to see that resolution move forward, get some more public education out there, and definitely credit to APD and our Region 2 officers and our DRs, our district reps, for continuing their education on safe firearm storage. The other thing that happened that was on the agenda this week, you may have seen a quick little story in KXAN about a videography contract, doing video services, that the story said we were spending $200,000, $300,000 to promote the convention center, but that it was being funded through outside of convention center monies. And when you go into the article, it said, oh, it's mostly convention center, and then it's a little bit from building services and financial services, and had a kind of a interesting list of departments on there. And that was the end of the story. So I saw some folks feel a little frustrated about why would we do this and why would we spend money on this when that money could be spent elsewhere. I mean, honestly, if we're talking about the convention center, it's funded through hotel tax, and that is an appropriate use of hotel tax. But what about these other departments? So we called up staff. Staff clarified the other departments that are using video services are not using them to promote the convention center because that's not what their budgets are for. But unfortunately, the agenda item on the council meeting didn't say that. So we worked with our other colleagues and said, you know what, let's postpone this item. Let's not approve it. Let the staff come back in 2 weeks and provide some additional clarity on what these video services are going to be used for. Unfortunately, that part of the story will probably not show up on your newsfeed. The first part almost certainly will. And again, just like the Zilker train story, this is the ongoing challenge that we have trying to run the city and trying to respond to the community's needs. The first part always goes more viral than the second part. That oh, there's some question, and of course that's going to be a crazy conspiracy, but in fact we're just working through the process, and that's how it works. That's actually how you govern. So, you know, again, keep your eyes open, keep your ears open. If you see a news story that lacks context, if it doesn't have feedback from staff, it doesn't have feedback from council members, contact your council member. Find out more. You know, this government process and oversight works as a partnership between us and the community. We are not in opposition to each other. We are all trying to do the right thing at the right time. So keep your eyes open for that. Let's move on to the bigger topic that is coming up this next week, second reading for the Land Development Code. That is one of my favorite little video titles that I've created for this. So we're headed into second reading next week. Anytime you do an ordinance change, even a small one, you are required by state law to do 3 readings unless you have a supermajority of the council. But when it's something that's sufficiently complicated, we always do all 3 readings. And so we did first reading in October, and then we've had the last 3, almost 4 months to review those. The staff came out a couple of weeks ago with their response to the decisions we made and the changes we made at first reading. That is what's being deliberated right now. We'll take that vote this coming week, and then that heads into third and final reading that I think will happen in March. But I want to talk a little bit about the myths that are happening around this process. There are some folks in this community, there are some political action committees out there that are really trying to make people afraid. And there's no reason for that. You know, we're making some significant changes because Austin has some significant issues. We have always struggled with growth in our city. But District 6 knows that if you try to suppress growth, if you say if they don't build it, they won't come, they still come. And they just sprawl their way out to Liberty Hill. So we have to think more thoughtfully about how we grow as a city, and that's what we're doing. One of the myths that I hear is, oh, you're making this decision in 6 days, and you're not giving enough feedback for the public, and there's not enough time for input. We are not even finishing this process next week. We are headed into third reading in March. But I also want to show that the reason you do 3 readings is because you slowly and methodically narrow down the questions so that you take at first reading the sum total of the document is over 1,000 pages, and you take the time to go through it and identify the challenges. When you get to second reading, you've cut that down by 90%. So you have a document of over 1,000 pages at first reading, turns into a staff supplemental report of less than 100 pages for second reading. And in fact, when you go through that supplemental report, half of them are things the staff didn't change. They were requests made of the council that staff said, you know what, there's really not a way to do this, or we need more clarification, or what have you. There is not, as I have heard some people claim, tens of thousands of changes that need to be reviewed. We are narrowing down the areas of conflict and challenge and question so that we can get to a third reading confidently that it's going to do the things we want it to do. Another of the myths that is very popular is that we are somehow banning the type of housing that exists in the city right now. Nothing could be further from the truth. We are in some cases expanding the types of housing that can be built, but single-family homes are still allowed in R2 zones, R3 zones. If you have a single-family home in R4 zone, it will not become illegal at the passing of this code. And we're creating special exemptions and compliance tools so that you can still add a bedroom or improve your property. It's been a really good, I think, thoughtful, methodical process to get through. Another of the myths that is very popular is that somehow we are forcing high-density development into the middle of neighborhoods. I've even received that I've received emails from folks who claim that that's what's happening, but when you go back and look at their neighborhood, actually nothing changed in their neighborhood, and there are in fact areas of the city where no changes were made. So it's really important to go back and look. You can see all of this information on the city's website, austintexas.gov/LDC, and see the maps. You can see the text. Most of the questions people have are in Chapter 3, which is the zoning chapter, where you can see all the little zones defined, how tall buildings can be, how far away from the lots they have to be. Very little changes being made outside of probably the most significant changes allowing duplexes. But in most of our District 6 neighborhoods, at least, there are deed restrictions that prevent that. And even if you have questions about deed restrictions, we went and talked to a couple title companies. The title companies interpret the deed restrictions. Developers are not going to be able to violate those and then sell the properties later. All of that stuff's being worked out. And it's actually a really good, positive process for the future of the city. And the last thing I want to say about it is, we had a couple of meetings with neighborhoods, and one constituent said, I hear what you're saying about the features, but tell me about the benefits. What are the benefits of doing this code rewrite? Well, the number one goal is we need to build more housing for a growing city. And if we don't build more housing, all the housing we have becomes overly expensive. All your property valuations go up beyond your ability to pay for them. We need more housing, and so that's job one. But there are other issues. There are climate change issues about not building more housing. There are transportation issues. We're trying to build the housing where we are making transportation investments. These are things that will allow the city to grow without making traffic worse, allow the city to grow without making your tax bills go up. Those are the types of challenges that are very difficult to solve. That is precisely what we are doing in this code. But again, second reading next week, third reading in March. Keep contacting me if you have questions about your property or your neighborhood. I'm trying to respond to everyone from District 6 that contacts me. I think I've been able to do that so far. But we are doing this work together, and I'm really proud to be part of a council that is taking on the biggest issues and solving them. And that is exactly what we are trying to do. I think I'm over my time, so we're going to jump right to the end. Thanks again for watching. Please share and like the video. We also do it in a podcast version on SoundCloud. We post it on YouTube if you want to share it in an email to folks that aren't on social media. Keep contacting the office, keep paying attention, and make sure that you vote in the primary. It is coming up in March. Early voting will be happening soon. And keep up all the good work out there, everybody.